next? So we got these two.
We've already what are some of your accomplishments?
Accomplishments? Well, having a beautiful wife and 3 lovely children, that's a big accomplishment.
When you were young.
What was that?
I mean when
Early on. I guess one of my accomplishments early on was finishing a marathon. I got to finish a marathon when I was 22.
And do you know how long a marathon is?
1 mile.
26 miles.
26 miles is a marathon.
Oh my god.
All in a row.
All in a row, running at one time.
Under
That's a lot.
under 3 hours.
Took them about 3 hours to run a
Or
marathon.
about 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours of running at the same time. Just running for 3.5 hours.
Can you believe that? And I did it multiple times. I did it once in Duluth, once in Detroit, about 4 times in Chicago.
Yeah.
That was kind of a cool accomplishment.
You had some free days.
Is that a good accomplishment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think he got bored running? What did he do?
Just move on. Okay. What were you like as a child?
What was I like as a child? I was very curious. I liked to talk a lot. And so
Curious, talk a lot. There you go.
I used to go up to adults and ask them lots of questions, and they would get annoyed because I was just a little kid and I just liked to talk and talk and talk. And they said, geez, you seem like you just like to hear yourself talk. Why don't you be quiet? Even my grandma told me to be quiet because I was too curious. Or I just like to talk, one of the two. But I like to talk to adults because they were interesting.
Weird.
Weird.
Alright, what else do you want to know?
Can you tell me about your people and your family?
Okay. Well, I have 2 brothers that are named Brian. Because my mom and dad had 2 boys, Brian and Matt, myself. And then they got divorced and they married Sean, Grandpa Kennedy. And he had 2 boys, Uncle Sean and Uncle Brian. So it was 2 Brians, Brian Kennedy and Brian Flanagan. And they got married. Grandma and Grandpa got married. And now they had Uncle Danny and Uncle Katie.
And Aunt Katie.
And Brian and Brian.
What's that?
And Brian and Brian.
And Brian, yep. Brian Kennedy, Brian Flanagan.
What were some important events happening in the country during your lifetime?
During my lifetime, early on in the 1980s, MTV was born. So MTV was music videos. They had never had music videos before. You know how you open up YouTube and watch people sing?
Yeah.
They created a music television where it was all these people that you heard on the radio were now on TV.
What the?
Dancing and singing. And we had never seen that before, and that was really cool. And so everybody wanted to rush home from school and watch MTV. Isn't that kind of neat?
Yeah.
And we used to love to watch shows like Double Dare.
What?
So it was these kids that had adventure races, and they would run through tunnels, and they would be timed, and they would have to jump into a swimming pool of balls, and then get slime dunked on them, and yeah, lots of cool adventure games for kids. It was like game shows for kids.
I admit.
That was pretty neat. Double Dare. And they would rent, you know what the grand prize was what they would win? A go-kart. That was like the coolest grand prize. It's like this souped up go-kart. Wouldn't that be neat?
Yeah, but I admit TV nowadays I like it more.
Yeah. And guess what? We would have cartoons just on Saturday.
That was the only day you could watch cartoons is Saturday mornings.
Saturday morning
was cartoon time.
Saturday morning cartoons. There's no other cartoons.
And you couldn't ever record it or go back and look at it. There wasn't like streaming. You couldn't just like, you had to watch Saturday morning cartoons. That was the only time you could turn on the TV and watch cartoons.
Yeah, kids didn't really watch TV because there wasn't much to watch for kids other than cartoons on Saturday morning. There was VHS tapes, movies. We could rent. We could go to the store.
You had to go to
movies.
you had to go to the movie store to rent a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't just
you couldn't
look up and watch any movie. You had to
search for it.
You had to go get this VHS, this big cassette.
Yeah, I've seen the tape
Yeah.
at Grandma's house.
Yeah. Yep. Those are that.
The other big event in your life was 9/11. That was
9/11. Yeah.
What important events happened
that
in
was
your
before
childhood?
you were born.
What's that?
What important events happened in your childhood?
Oh, well, 9/11, September 11, 2001 is when the U.S. was attacked
And you guys
in
won.
New York
And you know-
City and hit the World Trade Center.
Two airplanes.
Terrorist attack.
The terrorists took over the airplanes that had people in them, and they flew them into these big World Trade Center where there was thousands of people working.
Yeah.
And they flew these planes in and killed everybody on the plane and thousands of people who were in these towers.
Stop,
and
stop.
buildings.
I don't want to hear this.
Well, it was a very scary time.
Yeah, it was a really
Very scary time.
Then why did you say that's important time?
Because it was a very, very...
It wasn't really when I was a kid, though. It was when I was an adult. But...
Daddy was an adult, but...
I said into your childhood.
Okay, we'll just stick to the childhood. Okay, what else do you want to know?
Well, the cell phone was invented when Daddy was...
Yeah!
I wrote that down.
Okay.
The so we used to have to go to the bank to get money.
What?
Yep, we used to go to the bank to get cash, and we used to write checks, and an ATM, the ATM cards, those were kind of new, where you would go in to the bank. You used to have to go into the bank and say, here's a check, I'd like some money out of my savings account, and I want cash. And you'd carry a lot of cash with you. But then banks open up ATMs where you had the plastic credit card, and you pushed it into the bank teller, the automated teller, and then you said, I want $40, and got $40 out. And that was the coolest thing. That was when I was in high school that they made ATMs.
My God, that's so cool. I want to try it when I'm older.
Well, you could try it now, and then
why don't we go try that?
I got my first cell phone 20 years ago in 2000.
Wait, what model was it?
It was a flip.
I had an
phone.
even older one. I had a big, huge case. It was like it was like a lunchbox size, and it was a lunchbox size, and it had it was a I had to plug it into the cigarette lighter in my car, and I had to.
And you had to crank it.
And it was very ancient,
Very.
but it was brand new, and it was like the latest and greatest for cell phones. Was this big lunchbox size cell phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Well, you used it in the car, but you'd notice people like you just had it. It was more of an emergency cell phone.
So personal computers just got started when Daddy was born. 1974.
And you were the first one to have it.
I
Your
was-
first family had the first.
Yeah, I got one in 1982, but the first ones in the country were 1974, which was 1 year before Daddy was born.
For having a computer
only
at home.
very few people
didn't
had
have
it.
computers at home before that.
Certainly not multiple computers. But Grandma got Daddy a Commodore 64, which was one of the first computers when I was in second grade.
And then because you were bad at math,
Yep.
and you had to do math on it every day.
And I loved it. I loved the computer because the math games were cool. Because I kept on wanting to get a better score. I'm like, oh, I missed it just by a little bit. I'm going to get that top score. And I kept on playing it and playing it and playing it until I got better and better and better. and kept on moving up a level. And that was something that I did. So first computer, first cell phone when I was 24 in 2000 when I went to medical school. And then I got my first house here. This is my first house. Yeah. We got this when the girls were born.
This is about your childhood.
Oh, okay, all right. What else do you want to know about my childhood?
Let's see.
I got my first.
What schools did you attend?
I think I got my first 10 speed when I was in 6th grade.
Okay, what schools did you attend?
I went to school in Minnesota at Pine Hill Elementary and Oltman Junior High, and then Park Senior High. So all near Grandma's house now. Yep, I was in 3rd grade until high school in Cottage Grove where Grandma lives right now.
Let's see. Who inspired you and how did they inspire you?
Do you know Grandma's brother, Uncle Joe?
Yeah.
My Uncle Joe is a doctor. He just retired. So Uncle Joe inspired me because he was a really kind person and he was really nice. And everybody loved to talk to Uncle Joe when he showed up at family holidays. And Uncle Joe was a doctor and everybody thought that was really neat that he was a doctor. And I thought, geez, I think I would like to be a doctor someday. And so that's who I admired. I also admired my godmother, my Aunt Carol. She was a nurse, and she was very nice and very special and very caring.
That was Grandma's sister.
Grandma's sister. Mm-hmm.
Your mom's sister.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What are some of your accomplishments?
We already covered that one, didn't we?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I ran a marathon.
Oh.
You remember?
Yeah. Okay, what difficult decisions did you have to make during important times in your life?
Where to go to school? That was a tough decision. So after high school, you have to figure out what to do. Do you want to go to college? What do you want to study? And where do you want to go to college?
And you're about 18 years old?
And when you're 18 years old. So when I was 18 years old, a lot of my friends wanted to stay in Minnesota and go to school in Minnesota. And I kind of thought that I did too. I wanted to go to St. John's University, which was a couple hours away from where I lived. And I thought I wanted to go there. It was a very nice school. And Grandma encouraged me to look around more and to look at...
Because that was farther?
Well, no. She just wanted me to look around more at other schools. And so I looked at schools in Wisconsin, schools in Illinois, schools in Minnesota, and then only one school in Michigan. Do you know which one that was?
What?
Aquinas College. And so there's only one school that I looked at in Michigan. Only one. And I came out here and I thought, wow, Grand Rapids is a really nice town and there's a lot of hospitals in town. And maybe I would want to come here because I was thinking that I would like to be a doctor. And in order to be a doctor, you should go to...
Place with lots of places to go to be a doctor.
Yeah, to be a doctor or volunteer in hospitals. And so I came out here and I went to Aquinas College. So this was 12 hours away from Minnesota. So it was a long distance. It was the farthest school away from home. And I ended up winding up here to go to school.
18 years old, he moved 12 hours away from home.
Yeah.
And then he never came back for a long time?
Well, I went back to visit, but I would fly home on the holidays. Some of the holidays, not every holiday. Some Easters and Thanksgiving, I stayed here. But over summers and Christmas break, I flew home to Minnesota, and I called Grandma every Sunday.
Okay, fun facts.
Fun facts.
What do you want to choose? Favorite foods, activities, color, holiday, season, movie,
Yep.
game?
Okay. Let's see. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, because that's when I married your mom, on Thanksgiving. And
Yuck.
And I love the food on Thanksgiving. The food is great on Thanksgiving.
I want to eat.
Let's see. My favorite color is probably navy blue. Yep. Favorite activities? I really like to run and play hockey. When I go running and I feel good when I go running, like when everything is working well and like I'm in shape, it feels like you're floating. It's effortless. It just feels good. And it's kind of like meditating. Like, you know when you get into a mood where it's like everything is good? That's the way running can be.
Okay. What were your favorite sports?
My favorite sports, I like to run and I like to play
Hockey.
hockey. Yep, and I like to play hockey.
When did you start hockey?
When I was 6 years old. So I started a little later, like almost 7.
I started out like 5.
No, you started 3, 4?
What? I don't even remember
I thought it
my
was 3.
brain.
Did you not start earlier than that? I think you started early. I think you started at 3 for just skating.
Okay, let's see. What jobs did you have?
When I was young, one of my first job was detasseling corn. So there's a corn stalk and this corn cob and then a piece on the top that you pull off. And so
Wait,
all summer.
a question. I have a question.
Okay.
Did you live in the same house as now?
Yeah, in grandma's house? Yeah. Yep.
Doesn't look like there's so much space to make a farm.
No. You traveled by bus with other kids to detassel corn. So we would be out there probably 6 hours a day. We'd wake up at 6 a.m., get to the farm.
How old were you?
I was 13 or 14.
Question again.
Yeah.
Did you want to do this or did your mom and dad made you? And did the farmer allow this?
The farmer allowed it. Yep. And my mom and dad said, hey, why don't you do this because you can earn money? And I thought, well, geez, I could earn money. Why not do it? You know how much I made? Guess how much I made?
I don't know, 1,000?
Well, maybe over the whole summer I made $1,500. But I made like $3.50 an hour. And what we would do is wake up really early and work like 7 or 8 hour days, pulling the tops off of corn.
That is a ripoff because 3.5 hours and you get
$3.50 per hour.
So then
So
that was
maybe-
maybe
ripoff.
$25 a day.
25.
That's a ripoff.
Hey, but I couldn't work anywhere else as a 13-year-old.
That was a ripoff.
Well, how was I going to
Well,
say
at that
money?
time too, that was a lot of money.
Yeah,
Money used to be worth
I
a
was
lot
excited.
more.
Yeah, I made $750 one summer, which I thought was a lot, and then $1,500 the next summer. And then I started working when I was 15 in a nursery, and we would go through the farm fields pulling massive weeds, just going down the rows. And we would wake up and we would put bandanas on our head so we didn't get sunburned. And we would eat massive lunches. And then we would go back out again. And then we would get home and we would be so
Get a bellyache?
and then we would be so exhausted that we would fall asleep like by 7 o'clock.
The thing is,
And then we would start it all over again.
The thing is, when I eat a lot, I would get a bellyache. Did you get a bellyache one time?
Sure, I probably did. And one of my friends, this is a bad idea, but one of my friends got dared to drink a whole bottle of Tabasco sauce.
Oh, that is hot.
And he did. And guess what happened to him?
What?
He got really sick. He had he felt nauseous, felt like puking. His belly was churning. He got diarrhea. Yeah, he felt really bad. That was a really bad move on his part.
But why did he do the dare?
It was
Did
a
Daddy
dare.
do any dares?
No dares like that. No dares like that. Yeah.
Then how did he get into that dare?
And then once I was 16, I was a busboy.
What?
Do you know what a busboy is?
When did you have the paper route, though?
Oh, I had a paper route too.
When was the paper route?
When I was 12, I think.
He was 12 and he had a paper route.
What is a paper route? What is a busboy?
Okay, so a paper route is where we, like, say this neighborhood like this, maybe a little bit smaller, but like half of this neighborhood, I would go up and pick up newspapers on the corner.
Oh, now
at
I know.
6 in the morning.
Now I know.
Put them on my bike. We had baskets on my bike.
Now I know.
And go drop them off at people's houses.
So back then, a lot of people didn't have TVs, and people didn't watch TV for the news all the time or get the news from various places. So a lot of people used to get the newspaper because they'd get the newspaper every day and they'd read about what was happening.
So he probably made a lot of money because they didn't watch the news.
So
I didn't make a lot of money.
But
delivering
the newspaper didn't make a lot of money. But they had to pay. They paid young kids not very much money to deliver newspapers. Why? Well, because it was a cheap way to.
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of money. But little kids couldn't make very much money. They couldn't get jobs until they were 16.
So.
What?
So you.
Wait, that's a rule?
It was, and it still is. You can only do certain jobs.
When you're a kid, you can only do certain jobs.
Yep. And so then, a busboy, I worked at a restaurant, and I would go collect dishes from the tables after people were done. I'd put the dishes in a bin, bring them back to the kitchen for dishwashers to wash. And then I would set up tables, and I did some cash register work.
So you were technically, what is it?
A waiter?
Yeah, he was a waiter. He told me that one day, and I want to learn about that.
Oh, okay. While I was at Aquinas, I started working at a hospital drawing people's blood. And while I was going to school, I had to wake up really early, at 4 in the morning.
That is not early. Mom had to wake up the same time.
Oh, okay. Well, a couple days a week, I think. I worked 4 to 9 a.m., so pretty darn early for a kid. And so I woke up and drew blood, and then I worked in the emergency department, and then I worked in the neonatal nursery where little tiny babies were born.
And what did you have to do?
Change diapers. And then while I was doing those two jobs, I started being a waiter at Bistro Bella Vita.
But you couldn't just be a waiter. You usually start off as a busboy first. So you start off as Daddy got a good job as a waiter because he started as a busboy first, because you kind of have to do the dirty work first, collecting dishes and all that. And then you can graduate and get hired as a waiter, which is you get paid more when you're a waiter.
Yeah, so I was a busboy probably for 6 months while I was in college.
That is not that much.
Well, he was pretty good at it.
Then a waiter.
Yeah, then I was a waiter. And so I was a waiter for probably a year and a half maybe. And then I went to
How
medical
did you
school.
get hired to be in that restaurant?
I applied. I knew somebody and I said, hey, I'm a good guy. And they said, he's a good guy. And they said, well, let's try him out. Let's try him out as a busboy.
How did he know you were a good guy?
I went to school with somebody they already hired. Yeah.
Sometimes it's who you know.
Yeah. Well, that's probably enough stuff, right? Any other questions you got here?
That's probably enough. Any other questions you have for Daddy? All good?